Alright, welcome back. The last video we modified that clink.lua file in the commander root vendor directory so that whenever we worked on a virtual environment, we would have the virtual environment name pop up right here at our command prompt. If I do pip freeze right now, you'll notice that we have virtual environment 15.0.3 installed. And that's kind of our global level Python. That's the one that's actually living in my program files, x86, scripts, Python, whatever. That's like the computer's global level Python. I want to activate the virtual environment that we're going to be working on for the rest of this project. So the command to do that is I change directory into my workspace Django envs directory, and then I say in the project environment directory there is a scripts folder, and in there's a file called activate.bat. I'm going to run that, and you'll see the project environment, env for short, pop up at the top of my command prompt. That's how I know I'm actually working on this. I can do pip freeze. You'll notice nothing is installed. It doesn't say virtual environment like it did before. That's great. That's exactly what we want. It means we're working on a completely separate, isolated Python install or Python virtual environment. By the way, if you're running Linux or Mac, your commands are going to vary slightly for activating and deactivating. Your deactivating command is just deactivate.bat, and you'll notice the after I deactivated, the name went away. Your commands will be a little bit different if you're on Mac. Here is a very good documentation on it. All I did, I think, was Google virtual env Python, and you'll see different commands in here. The one I use on Linux is source, so if you're on Mac, it's probably something very similar, but right now we're just going to go with Windows. Alright, so if I do pip freeze, I have nothing installed, so I need to install Django. So pip install Django. It's going to collect Django. When I do it like this, just pip install Django, nothing else, nothing after the Django, it's going to by default go into the Django repository and grab out the most recent version. If for some reason you want to use a older version of Django, you can specify which version you want to use while running this command, but for right now, for this tutorial, we're just going to use the most recent one, and it looks like it's going to be Django 1.10.2. Alright, so that's successfully installed. So now if I say pip freeze, you see we have Django installed. I can verify that by saying Python. I'm on Python 3.5.2 is what this virtual environment defaults to. And I'm going to say import Django. And I can say Django.version. And so we can tell we're definitely working. We're on 1.10.2 of Django. Now let's try this. Let's deactivate. And now let's run pip freeze again. I have virtual environment because I'm on my global level virtual or global level Python, but I do not have Django. So if I run Python, I'm still running 3.5.2 by default, but I can't. There we go. But I cannot import Django. No module named Django, and that's because it's not installed at our global level environment. So let's activate. I'm just going to press up a few times. There we go. Project env scripts activate.bat. I get my project environment virtual environment name right here at the top, so I know I'm on it. I can confirm that by typing pip freeze, and there we go. So we definitely have a virtual environment that's working. We have a virtual environment that has Django installed and is completely isolated from our global level one, and that's exactly what we want. Because if we start a project in here and build this whole project up over the next 6 months or so, relying on Django 1.10, at that point Django could be at like 1.14 or something. So if I start a new project and I want that to rely on 1.14, if I install the new Django 1.14 at the global level, it could break some type of dependencies or some type of syntax in my older Django project. And we don't want that. That's why we want to run all our projects on completely separate virtual environments. Alright, so the next thing is actually, let's CD up one. So I'm in my workspace Django directory, and I'm going to say Django admin, we're going to say start project, and I'm just going to call this tutorial. CD and tutorial. For this whole project, I'll be referring to whatever directory has your manage.py in it as your project's root level directory. It gets a little confusing because the name of the parent folder, tutorial, also has a child folder, also named tutorial. If we cd into that tutorial, this is where our settings.py, URLs, and WSGI py live. So I'll be referring to this directory as the project's, we'll call it the root configuration directory, because that's really what it is. This settings.py is a configuration file for the whole Django project. Alright, so now that we have all this installed, we have our virtual environment working, we have Django installed, we have our project started. I think that's pretty good for this video. I don't want to go too long. In the next video, we will do our first migrations, we'll create a super user, and we'll log into the admin menu.